Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this series, and we're starting off with the fact that the enemy cannot stop the promise. So he has to stop you. How does he stop you? He derails you with relationships. He derails you in circumstances. He derails you with other people. He derails you with communications. He derails you in attempting to block your path, right? So he can't stop the promise, but he can stop you. Don't let your feelings about the attacks that will come against your business, your marriage, the things that you're putting your hand to, even in your job. Many a story I've heard about Christians being attacked at their job because the enemy does not want you there being the light to that environment. Okay? But you also have to have a spiritual acuity to have discernment to where the attack is coming from. How do you do that? Consecration, fasting, getting in the presence of the Lord constantly. This is a lifestyle of consecration. Daniel had a lifestyle. Read the book of Daniel to understand walking in the lifestyle of the consecration of the Lord. Read it. Understand. Because that is what positions you ahead of attacks. What the enemy doesn't want you to figure out is what the attack is before he does it. But God will give you signs when you're in the right head space and heart space that will show you this is the attack. This is where it's coming from. This is who it's going to attack. This is where it's going to go. And then you get into a 1-day, 3-day consecration before the Lord to whatever capacity he tells you, and you get wisdom. You sit in his presence. You pray in relation to. You stand on those things. You pray the right prayers. You pray the scriptures back to the Lord in relation to those things. And then when you come out of that, you're going to get that revelation within 24 to 48 hours. You're going to get clarity on that thing. Ask me how I know. And it helps you to avoid warfare that you would have ended up in had you not gone into that space of consecration for the period of time in which God was showing you, because you're being covered in that season. And it also helps when you have people praying for you. Prayer coverings, prayer partners, ministries covering you when you're going through those things. Because if the ministry is a good ministry, when they cover you in prayer, the answers will come. They might come while you are in the midst of that consecration. You'll avoid conflict. You'll avoid confusion. Why? So you do not make a short-term decision that can have long-term consequences that the enemy desires, which is the point of his attack. These are the moments in which you will be tested. To my people that did not see when I did the review of Why Did I Get Married, I suggest you go back and you watch all parts of the Why Did I Get Married. I did a review of every relationship and the dynamics of each relationship and what kind of attacks were in those relationships. When you really look at them. So, with that being said, your spouse is always in control of the situation, but you have to think about the way the man thinks. So funny. Last night, I was literally watching the movie Think Like a Man. And I was looking at the way that the couples related to each other. Am I going to do a review on Think Like a Man? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. But in it, there is certain references to how people will allow other people to get involved in their relationships with their partners, and how you cannot allow too much external interference to create confusion amongst your relationship. Yes, it can teach you something. Yes, it can be an experience. Yes, it's a lesson in that. But some lessons you don't have to go through. What am I saying? Your spouse does have wisdom. Adam, when he was in the garden, the Lord had given him instructions. The problem is some men do not know how to articulate those instructions that they've been given. I'm going to reference this again. I think I referenced it before in either this or the previous videos that I did. There is a video by Apostle Richard E. Youngblood called "The Two Are Now One," or "It's No Longer Two," something like that. You are no longer two. So in that, he does a great breakdown of the way that men think in relation to marriage and covenant of marriage. Pay close attention. And this is where I learned more acutely about that scripture, about the woman's curse was to control the man, and the man curse was to rule over the woman and to be stuck in toil. That was a curse, okay? But the problem is the only reason that curse was enacted is because he did not follow instructions. If you look at Deuteronomy 28, the reason that there are blessings is that you're following God's instructions. But the reason that you step into curses is why? Because you step out from under the covering of the blessing and you did something out of order from the Lord. In these marriages, in these mergers, in these contracts, in these businesses, because it's not just marriage, it's business. I need you to look at your marriage similarly to a business, and I need you to look at business as similarly to a marriage, because this is a financial contractual agreement, because you're going to be building something with an individual, whether it's a life, a family, a development, so on and so forth. And the thing about it is, you both have to have a level of awareness and communication amongst the two of you. Because the reason that this movie, if you haven't recognized, we're still talking about Temptations of a Marriage Counselor. I just haven't mentioned any of the characters in it. But I'm showing you what the overview of how these mergers and these things were messed up. Individuals coming in and desiring to control a situation. There was a man that presented himself as a option. But when this option came in, and why am I sharing this? Because options are going to come up when you come into your marriage. I'm sorry to tell you this, it's going to happen. But I'm showing you financially how these options can bring about a level of confusion that when they come in, they can actually destroy your partnership with your God-ordained partner, as well as they can destroy your partnership in your business. Because if Whoever is coming in under you in a business, these are individual partnerships. Because you make individual, think of Jesus bringing in the disciples in ministry. Okay? So when Jesus brought in those disciples, those are 11 to 12 partnerships that he brought in, right? But each individual had their own motives. Yes, they had their own job and or job title, right? But if each individual had their own motives, they could bring about a level of confusion. Anytime you are coming together in a corporate or business agreement and or partnership, go back to contractual agreements we just talked about, you need to make sure that that person has the right motive and heart posture. This is why when two people get into a business contract, there's a 90-day probation. Even with a job, there's a 90-day probation period to make sure that that individual is right for that position. But even in that, it's your opportunity to see if you're right as the person coming in for that position, for that job. Meaning, is this the right job or opportunity? Because something that Dr. Jolene Whitaker taught me 6 years ago. She came on and did a broadcast right in the nick of time. I tell you not that I was in the middle of doing a contractual agreement for a book deal. And she came on and she said that the devil will give you a contractual agreement that if you sign it, he can lock you in. But see, what does it say in the word? God will always give you a route of escape. You have the ability to discern. I remember this was so funny. I was looking at the TV show Touched by an Angel. And the angel character played by, I forget, the one that played the white woman. She was talking to a guy that was now sitting in jail. And it was a deal that he had signed. And she literally asked him, she said, "Did you ask God about that deal before you signed it? Did you inquire the Lord about that before you went into it?" I might have to watch that show again because I feel like there's some words in that show that I was watching it when I was a kid, didn't know what I was doing. But now, with what God has shown me, I think I'm going to need to watch that show again. But, yeah, she said if it was a contractual agreement, did you ask God first? For some of you, there are associations, negotiations, people, and partnerships. I even heard this from a woman who is very discerning in the spirit, Tiffany Montgomery. She said that there was a woman that she got involved with that as a partner because she was like, I just wanted to do something. And I know y'all be thinking that I'm a mean person, but I wanted to help this individual. And the Lord showed me that it was something wrong with this individual. But because I felt bad for her and her circumstance, I decided that I wanted to help her, and that situation did X, Y, and Z to me. But God had already warned me, but I did it, worked in my own will, and then I ended up suffering the consequence. You have to be careful of the associations and partnerships that you make, including people that you have lingering around your marriage. And this is where I bring in the movie character. Harley's character was lingering. He lingered around long enough to wait until he saw an opening. This is the same thing that will happen in businesses, okay? When you are a new business on the block, best believe your competition is watching you. They are watching you to see where there is an opening. And for people that operate in unethical business practices, they're trying to see where they can sabotage you. Am I making sense? They're looking for an opening to send in something to sabotage you. You've seen it in a gazillion movies. I'm sure you can think about 15 movies right now where the person came in, they set up a tactic in order to sabotage the other individual's business. If it was a restaurant, they sent a false something in there in order to blow up the scenario. In the movie Last Holiday, there was a coup going on behind the scenes, and they were setting up certain things. Shoot, we just went through Now You See Me. The whole thing was about that. Be aware that even in your marriage, even in the businesses that you and your spouse may put together, there's always somebody watching to see if they can come in. Be discerning of the people that you're hiring on, because some of them may be a Judas or a double agent for your enemies that are looking to siphon and or destroy what it is God is trying to bring into your hands. To be there as a siphoning spirit, to be there as a leaky spot, a mole, a person that is feeding information to your enemies, or a person that's sent there to see if they can get in between you and your partner, whether it be your actual spouse or a business partnership, because they see that the association between the two of you is too strong. And if they don't get between that, it's going to destroy what God's trying to build. The enemy targets these spots, these weak points. The other day I was watching the movie Mind Hunters. I don't watch this horror movies like that, but it just so happened that it was on television and I had it on mute on my TV, and something that came up, I turned the volume on, and they were talking about, because each of these individuals were profilers, and they were there studying for an entrance exam to get into a specific level of the Bureau for profiling. Your enemy is doing a profile on you. Guarantee it. Know it. Understand it. And he's also looking for an entry point into your marriage. A wedge. Somewhere that he can blow up little foxes and create little dynamite that is going to go off. How is he doing so? He's bringing in proclivities. Lord, you want me to go in there now? Last night I was looking at a video, and I'm not going to go into deep depth with that, because that's anywhere from 5 to 7 videos. It might be more than that I got content on when it comes down to your God-ordained marriage. When God ordains a relationship for you, it is imperative that it be the right individual. And yes, you can ask who that individual is. You can ask the Lord who that individual is. But in asking, you need to be prepared for what you're going to need to do once you have that information. Because you have now opened the door for a fight, but the fight might not have been on your end. Yes, you are fighting. You breaking curses. You breaking all of these kinds of things for this individual. But you got to break them for yourself as well. And you are going to you're going to recognize what those things are. But understand that there is a strong man. And the reason I'm bringing this up is there are gatekeepers and strong men in you and your spouse's life, in the lives of the people, and in the industry in which you're going into. The gatekeepers are trying to keep you out. So they're trying to set you up in a certain way to even bring about the understanding. And this is what Mind Hunters brought my attention to. In Mind Hunters, the killer that was killing them studied each individual so specifically that the way that he killed them was using their very own sin against them. That's how he killed each and every single one of the people. And it may have been either a sin or a characteristic about them that would lead them into a trap. In this movie, Temptations of a Marriage Counselor, the guy hardly lured the wife in, which I'm being reminded of a scripture in Hosea. Hold on. Hosea 14 says, therefore I am now going to allure her. This is what the enemy is trying to do. He's trying to allure, meaning he's using something. I was talking about this. Actually, I typed this in the note that I wrote yesterday, that what the enemy will do is that when he wants to separate you from your spouse using witchcraft, he will create something similar to a love potion number 9. You ever seen people talk about love potion number 9? We've heard of it. It's a little candy term that we've heard throughout our life. Oh, love potion number 9. That person's under a love potion. Ooh, da, 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 da. But when I use that reference, I'm referencing when you feel like something does come over you, and it literally, if you catch it, you will feel it come over you, that will make you feel like in this woozy, I love state. I recognize this. This happened to me twice with 2 different individuals. One, the guy liked me, and he kept contacting me. And what the Lord showed me, because I'm spiritually aware, that when the Lord showed me this about this individual, the person called me. And when they called me, I felt the Spirit fall on me, as if it was trying to make me feel like I was in love with this person. But I was like, my spirit rejected that. I was like, I don't like this person like that. And as soon as I rejected it, it cut off. There was another individual, was not a romantic interest at all. This person was somebody that was associated to somebody I knew, but they had charisma about their personality that everybody was falling for, but I was not. And every time I got around them, I could discern there was something wrong with this person's charisma. But I also noticed that when I was in the room with this individual, that exact same sensation, like I was being put under a spell of love or falling into the trap of their charismaticness, I realized that every time I tried to go into the room with this individual who was associated with somebody I was associated with, this spirit would try to come over me. And until I sat down with the Lord and I had to pray and say to myself, hey, Lord, I don't like this sensation. If this is not right, please remove me or remove this individual from around when I go into contact with the third party, meaning the third individual that was associated between the two of us. Meaning I did not want to be in the same room that this person was in while being in the room with the person that I was associated with. So what the Lord did is anytime this person was in the room, I couldn't go in there. Whether it was a paywall created or it was a scenario where I just couldn't have access to that thing. He prevented me from being able to be in it because of the fact that this person was there. Know that wrong associations will keep you in a trap, because then you are open to witchcraft, open to marine spirits, open to falling under the wistfulness or what have you of witchcraft that will make you feel like you have to do that thing. And it falls over you. If you aren't discerning enough, you'll fall into it. But I've had a level of discernment. Thank God I prayed for that over 9 years ago. That it's not that easy for me to get pulled in by these kinds of things. So with that being said, let's get back to our content. You have to be aware. And when you realize there is a trap like that being set up before you, because that's the way the enemy works. When the enemy can't get to you, he will go to the person that's less discerning. Because he realized, oh, I tried to put that kind of warfare on her head, didn't work. But maybe her partner is not as spiritually aware as she is. So let me drop it on them. This is why, hear me with your spiritual ears, this is why a lot of you know who your God-ordained spouse is. But you notice that every time the Lord shows you that this man's supposed to show up, it seems like they're in a level of warfare. Why? Because the enemy knows that he can't stop you. But if that man isn't as spiritually aware as you are, he'll fall for the counterfeit popping up. Why? Because that woman will work witchcraft on him. This is why we talk about the witchcraft. This is why we talk about the counterfeits working witchcraft. Because these women are so desperate to prevent, and these are sent, because I need you to pay attention to something. Jezebel was working for Baal. Okay? Jezebel was working for Baal. Jezebel was sent to seduce. Jezebel knew what she was doing when she married Ahab, but she was working for Baal. A lot of these individuals will come to try to seduce you, come to try to seduce your partner, come to try to interfere in your marriage, come to try to interfere in your business, to break up negotiations. I remember years ago, and I'm being reminded of this now, I saw a broadcast with Dick Gregory. You can probably still find it now on YouTube, where Dick Gregory talked about the way that they would set men up years ago. And some of this stuff is still going on, because I heard financial advisors talking about the same thing. Is what they would do is they will set a man up, have them go to the bar, have them sitting at the bar. They'll meet a woman. They'll go up to the room with the woman. And what they'll do is they'll drug that man. They'll take photographs of him with this woman in a proclivious situation. But because there are photographs of this man, then come back to the man on a different night and say, we got photographs of you with XYZ. And that man don't even remember. He just know that he may have woke up, passed out in that room. The financial advisor talked about a story of a celebrity that she used to do that on purpose. She would be the one that they would send in. But not only would she be the one that they sent in, they sent her in. And then she would leave, and they would send somebody else in to do something to that individual, and she'd come back after it was done. Setups. This is what I'm talking about. You need to be aware. Some of Ariel Sparks was talking about this the other day. Some of you, your partner was being blackmailed, depending on where their level of status is. They're being blackmailed, and their blackmail was keeping them away from you, because the enemy knew every time he got close to coming towards you, they had to stop him. So they would always bring something up right when they could spiritually see angels preparing to move him towards you. Because you too discerning, you ain't gonna fall for, some of you are, you're not gonna fall for counterfeit coming to you. Because if you still in a level where you sitting up there, ooh, pay close attention, there goes the siren. If you still in a level that, oh, I'm going to entertain somebody because he entertaining somebody. Maybe he entertaining somebody because he's on a level of witchcraft, just like I just said. in an attempt to keep him away from you. But you too busy seeing him under that witchcraft. And you gonna say, oh, I'm gonna go. And the enemy's literally sitting up there. Bingo, now I got him. Because you gonna sit up there. And you gonna come into agreement with another spirit. Because that's what a counterfeit is. Come talking about, oh, I'm gonna entertain this person because he entertaining that person. And then the enemy got you on a legality, because that's what Satan was looking for, in order to set you up to separate you from your God-ordained spouse spiritually. Oh, we out here? We talking about this? Yeah. Enemy don't play fair. Not by no means. Have you two rotating around each other, wishing, wondering why in the world is it taking so long for this to happen? Trying to get him to give up, trying to get you to give up. Or once you get into your marriage, trying to deal with his mind in a certain way, trying to deal with your mind in a certain way, that you start dealing with past thoughts. I was literally listening to prophetic poetry, and she did a podcast, and I knew I listened to it at the right time. And she was talking about this. She was talking about the fact that you need to move forward. But you also got to realize that when you do move forward, you cannot get caught up in keeping old doors open to past issues, past thought processes, past things, because that's going to trip you up as you're moving forward. And that will leave a wedge, a door, or a space open for the enemy to slip right in. This individual in this film, that guy started coming around her, but she didn't nip it in the bud immediately. She didn't stop it. You understand what I'm saying? Because she didn't stop it, that left an opening for the enemy. And then what the enemy did was he came back around to her husband and made him ignore her. And it wasn't that he was ignoring her, he just was not expressing through communication in order to resolve the situation, that when she brought to his attention this was happening, he did not address it. What did I just say about the scripture? The husband Adam did not give the right amount of instruction to Eve so that she did not end up walking into a trap. The husband in this film did not show enough concern to his wife when she was trying to tell him, I'm noticing there's this issue. He did not address the issue.